So as of this morning, we're at something like 200,000 United States citizens dead from COVID-19, nearly a million worldwide. Um, and so by asking this current question, I don't mean in any way, shape, or form to deny the reality of suffering and difficulty. There have been jobs lost, there have been families turned upside down, there's fear. Those are all real. Um, it's not what I want to talk about just for a second. Um, because a lot of what I also hear being spoken of with the same kind of intensity as the mourning over death is the mourning of our luxuries, the grief over not being able to have life the way we prefer it, the way we're used to it, and I get that. Um, but how much of that is a necessity, and how much of that is a luxury? What can we lay down for each other in our best guess as to public health? Those are difficult questions, and it's going to look a little different for everybody. So I'm not trying to bind anybody's conscience. But when I hear people say, well, I just really want to get things back to normal, I think, what do you mean? Being able to go on a cruise, being able to attend the big football game packed in with all the fans, to have the big populated wedding and event or birthday party or go to a concert. What are we wanting to see happen? What are we mourning? Are we mourning death and trial and loss? Or are we mourning luxury? So in Isaiah, I think it's Isaiah 16, verses 6 and 7, the Lord is talking about the arrogance of the nations who have opposed and oppressed his people. And Moab is an ancient enemy of the people of God. And earlier in this chapter, the Lord says, look, Moab is going to be struck. It's going to be brought under discipline. I'm going to do this. And I want you to accept the refugees from Moab. I want you to bring them in. I want you to treat them well. I want you to care for them. But then he turns to describe Moab's suffering itself. He says, we have heard of the pride of Moab, how proud he is, of his arrogance, his pride, and his insolence. In his idle boasting, he is not right. Therefore, let Moab wail for Moab. Let everyone wail. Mourn, utterly stricken, for the raisin cakes of Kir Hareseth. The raisin cakes. And I was reading that, and that just struck me. Raisin cakes? What are raisin cakes? Raisin cakes there are that crowning pinnacle of the luxury of Moab and her pride and her arrogance and his pride and arrogance. The Lord uses a masculine pronoun here. His arrogance, his pride, his insolence, his raisin cakes, his luxury. So many of us have examined our lives and seen how COVID has changed things. Which of our losses are true wounds? Which of our losses are just raisin cakes? Just luxuries that are not necessities. And a good way to examine ourselves, the things that we are feeling the loss of, is to say, where is the grief for losing them? Where is that located? Do I feel affronted or angry or offended or deprived? Like, does anger come too quickly? Or is it directed at wrong targets? That might be a sign that what I'm mourning is not a loss of something that's good, but a loss of a raisin cake, a loss of a luxury. Other losses will lead us to places of depression or grief or mourning or a sad ache, tears instead of anger. That may be a sign that we are not grieving a raisin cake. We're not grieving something that's a luxury. We're grieving something that's dear to us. And all those things I mentioned earlier, wedding events. I know a guy that's an ice sculptor, and it's his livelihood. So weddings and events being canceled, that makes a big difference for his actual livelihood. That's not a luxury to him, right? It's okay to miss our luxuries, but sometimes I think we've got a lot of our identities wrapped up in those luxuries, rather than things that are necessities, rather than things that are first, rather than our life and our trust in the Lord. So I just want to encourage you today as you examine what you are losing, what you have lost in the time of COVID. Some of them may be raisin cakes. Some of them may be necessities. And to hold those two things in separate categories in your heart and mind. Again, the litmus test, how's my heart responding? Is the fruit of my loss grief or anger? Is it mourning or bitterness? That could be an indication of whether or not I'm mourning a raisin cake. Bless you today. I hope this day finds you well. It's a relatively smoke-free morning here in the valley, and I'm gonna enjoy it.